Texas, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Weaponization, two-tiered justice, prioritization. What do these words have in common? They describe the unspoken policy of the Biden administration when it comes to justice. And you can apply this unspoken policy to any Biden administration agency. For weaponization, Biden weaponized the DOJ to go after a former president for political purposes. But he said Trump was undermining democracy. For two-tiered justice in the classified documents case, Biden directed the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago, yet gently browse the classified documents that were sitting in President Biden's garage. For prioritization, Biden's FEMA department in Florida only helped storm victims who didn't have Trump signs in their front yard. Think about that. So, it should come to no surprise that we're talking about another example of weaponization, two-tiered justice, and prioritization in today's hearing. We're here today to talk about the DOJ's selective enforcement of the FACE Act. It is aimed at ensuring equal protection for both pro-life and pro-choice movements. Under the Biden administration, I'll let you guess whether the pro-life or pro-choice activists have been charged with more crimes. The FACE Act has been the law of the land for the last 20 years, and the Biden's DOJ in just 4 years has brought over a quarter of all FACE Act prosecutions. There are many examples, but I will highlight an egregious example. In Mount Juliet, Tennessee, pro-life advocates were arrested for singing and praying in a hallway of a shared general medical office building featuring an abortion clinic. They initially were faced with misdemeanor charges. But magically, 17 months later, the DOJ charged these Christians with federal crimes. Among these charged was Eva Edel, now 89 years old. She's a survivor of a communist concentration camp in Yugoslavia after World War II. That's right. In Biden's America, you can escape a communist concentration camp and then come to America and be arrested for praying. Mr. Vaughn, thank you for being here today. I'm glad that you avoided prison time as well, sir. But did you receive 3 years supervised release? Is that correct?
That is correct, after 18 months of pre-sentencing supervision.
Could you have ever imagined living in a country, this country, that you would be arrested for praying, singing, and providing sidewalk counseling?
No.
We, as a country, should have seen this coming. Under the COVID censorship regime that was the Biden administration, they restricted churchgoers from attending church but allowed people to shop in liquor stores. I guess that's because Tito's and Crown Royal were the cure for COVID. Maybe we'll never know. Mr. Compton, I gotta tell you something. You could probably imagine, sir, I am not a big fan of the KKK. I'm a direct descendant of slavery, and I'm also to tell you that the Klan has been dead for a very long time. Why in God's name would you evoke and act like this under these circumstances?
I wish I understood exactly what the logic was behind it as far as any legitimate reasoning, sir. What I do know is Sanjay Patel authored an article in 2022 for the DOJ's own internal kind of a law review magazine where he laid out why he suggested they use it, and he was the first one to use it as the prosecutor in the District of Columbia case, and that was because it would increase the penalty. And because it's easier to prove conspiracy, you don't need what's called a predicate act under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, this conspiracy against rights statute. Moreover, sir, if I may add, the conspiracy against rights depends on a federal right.
Yes.
Traditionally, that was a constitutional right. Now, as we know, there is no federal constitutional right to abortion. So the right they're hanging that on is the thin, very slender thread of a right to access reproductive health clinics. So it is a mystery, and it is such an unjust and excessive punishment, use of that statute, abuse of that statute, that, as I suggested in my opening remarks, it needs to be separately addressed.
Of course it does. Thank you for answering the question, sir. The selective prosecution of FACE Act violations is a two-tier justice at its finest. The Biden administration, Attorney General Merrick Garland's persecution of their political opponents is real and is pervasive. They painted January 6 protesters out to be violent criminals, yet President Biden pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, and many other actual felons because they were on his side of the aisle, period. Peaceful January 6th protesters are in jail while violent criminals are pardoned and roam free. And thank God they're going to get out of here on January 20th. I could guarantee you that. Merrick Garland surveilled parents at school board meetings who were simply expressing their right to free speech. Garland, however, did nothing about Antifa while cities in this country were being burned to the ground. Biden has been on the wrong side of justice every single time, and we know it. The American people know it. We've expressed our sentiments just last month, and I can assure you we will have justice back in America on January 20th. Thank you all very much for being here.
I thank the